Thank you so much. 6:30 tonight. Please be here. Today I want to talk a little bit about ministry again. We've talked about ministry the last 2 weeks, and I want to share with you a little bit about ministry in action today. And one of the ways we're going to do that is talking about our Canal Days. So, Barbara, if you would please, and Candace, please come up, and they're going to share with us a little bit about last week's Canal Days.
I did not expect to give. Our church health ministry committee has done Canal Days in years past. We have gathered together nurses and other medical workers to go down and do blood pressures at Canal Days. Our nurses and so forth worked very hard, but people at Canal Days do not want their blood pressure taken. They are there for fun, and they don't want to know the cold, hard truth. So when Candace came to me a month or so ago and said, "Would you like to go do Canal Days?" I said, "No. Really don't want to do that again." And she said, "Well, I have an idea." And so we cooked up this idea to do smoothies and to give them away. We had no idea what to expect. So we thought we were thinking big. We figured 300 or 400 smoothies would be a good total for the weekend. We did not plan for 2,700 smoothies. And so I spent most of my weekend at the grocery store where Candace would be texting me, "We have 2 bananas left. Oh, we're out of cups too. Grab some ice while you're there." And that was our entire weekend. People loved the smoothies. They could not believe that they were free. We got some looks of skepticism. When we'd hand them out, they'd say, "Okay, I'll take the mini one, but when do you hit me up for the $4.50 real smoothie?" In fact, several people came back and wanted that smoothie, but we had to say, "I'm sorry, we're not in business here. We're just giving you something." And we have a table over here with some wonderful reading material. Take all that you like. We gave out Vibrant Life, 400 of those, 500? 500. We gave out a case of Steps to Christ. We also did 8 bushels of peaches. Thank you, volunteers who came and worked very, very hard. We had 4 teams. Candace will tell you a little bit about who our teams were.
Well, I think, why don't we have some of our volunteers come up here and tell us about it? We've asked a few people to come share their experience with you. We had over 40 volunteers, from Janet's Flowers to Michael's running them to the Burkett setting up the tents. We had over 40 people, and a third of those were our young people. What a beautiful thing that is. So Deanna and Ellie, Laura, Bill, come on up and let you tell us a little bit about how it was through your eyes. Okay, Ellie and Deanna, why don't you come first? Okay, tell us what was the most interesting part of this experience for you. You go first, Ellie.
I loved being able to just give to others for like a whole day. And being able to work with the church family, that was really great too.
Okay, so working together was meaningful to you. How about you, Deanna?
Yeah, like she said, working together, you get to be there with your friends and also making people smile. It felt great. You got people there just like selling stuff, and we're giving it away for free. Come, get something for free.
Right.
Yeah, it felt nice.
How did people react to you?
They were surprised. They're like, "It's free? What do you? Where's the big thing? Where you? It's all free." I'm like, "Really?" Yeah.
Right. So, when you told them that it was free, did they like what you gave them, or did they say,
There were a few people who were like, "Yeah, I don't like this," but most of the people really liked it.
Okay. So it's kind of neat to be able to give something to people that they want, that they like. Did you have any experiences you want to share with anybody?
I know one lady, she came up to us and said that we made her day because everything was free, and we were just smiling to her and like talking to her, and she was just so happy, and yeah.
Okay, so you guys felt like, let me just ask you, okay, would Jesus have done what you did?
Yeah.
Would he have done that?
Yeah.
Giving something for free? Okay, giving something that makes people healthier, happier? Did you feel like you were doing his work?
Yeah, that's why it was like such a blessing just to be able to help others and just see the smiles on their faces. It was really amazing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, ladies. Like I say, 1/3 of our volunteers were under the age of 18. Pretty cool. Come on up, Laura. Come tell us.
She came prepared.
Look at her. Go ahead.
I don't have the talents that these young people have of being able to sing beautifully. I can't even sing at all. I can't play an instrument. But I'm telling you, I can peel a peach.
And a lot of peaches.
A lot of peaches. I was able to stay by and peel and peel and peel. And I was also able to smile at the people that stopped by. Some people needed more than a smoothie. They stopped and they even came over to the table where we were peeling and they shared. One man talked and talked and talked to us. He needed a friend, and we were there. Often we think we have to do something great. We think we have to be able to have 45 verses prepared for each doctrine. We think we have to do all kinds of great and glamorous things, when all it really takes is to be friendly and to peel a peach. We were able, for me, since I'm relatively new here, I really was blessed by the other people who were peeling peaches, lifting boxes, and all kinds of things. We laughed and joked and teased with each other, and we got to know each other much better and got to enjoy each other. And you know something? I'm going to tell you a secret. We have some pretty nice people from this church. What we did was, those of us in the background were not outreaching, we were inreaching. And I felt very blessed.
Come on up, Bill.
Laura invited me to come to church today. Thank you, Laura. Barbara and Candace had a real machine going last Sabbath, a machine of people. And she said she was one of the peelers. They would peel the peaches, de-seed the peaches, slice the peaches, and hand them over to Bob, who was the efficient smoothie maker for us. He would pour the smoothies into a larger container. The larger container would then go into the cups, which were then handed out to the people in the street. Now, Donna and I were behind the part where they're giving away the literature. And that was very interesting, too. I noticed as we all worked together that there was a man across the street who was grinding flour of some kind and selling it off. And every time I looked over there, he was looking back at us. And so I took a cup over to this man and handed it. I said, "You look like you need one of these really bad." And he said, I do. I really wanted one of those. I just haven't had time to go over and get it. So he took the drink and loved it. A few minutes later, I looked back over there and he gave me a thumbs up. Said, "That was great. I loved it. Thank you." And then there was the little lady that came by drinking her smoothie. And I referred her to the material on the table. She said, and particularly the Steps to Christ, I said, "You'll love this book. This is a great booklet. I've read it. I know it is good, and you will love to read it." She said, "Oh, I know about that book because I used to be a Seventh-day Adventist." Did we make an impression on people? Yeah, I think we did. I think we did. Positive reinforcement, positive impression on people in our community.
I wanted you to see the picture of one of our youngest volunteers. This little tiny girl came up to me, I guess a day or two before Canal Days, and said, "Can I help pass out peaches?" And I looked down at her and said, "Sure, nobody's too little." And I thought, she won't come or she'll peter out after about 10 minutes. She was out there for hours. Could you turn that face down? Nobody could. She gave away a lot of smoothies. And I want to show them the peach tree. When we rented our space at Canal Days, we were a little late getting in on things, so we got a space that was towards the end of the route. And when Candace and Benita and I got there, the Burketts came with the tent, and we were trying to figure out where to put this, because there was actually a tree, a little large bush, in the middle of our space. Okay, what do we do with that? And we said, well, let's just use it and set the tent up around it, which we did. And then somebody said, well, we're giving away peach smoothies. Why don't we make it a peach tree? So we put the peaches in the tree, and you'd be shocked how many people came along and said, "Is that a real peach tree?" And Sabbath afternoon, we literally ran out of peaches. We had to close down, or we probably would have given away hundreds more smoothies. We knew once we'd picked all the peaches off the tree that then we had to fold up our tent sort of and go home. And Candace went and got lots more peaches for the next day. All in all, I'm going to share the statistics with you because Pastor Frank said he found this interesting. We used 83 pounds of bananas, 400 pounds of peaches, which is 8 bushels, 24 pounds of honey, and 300 pounds of ice. That's a lot of smoothies, and I want to thank our volunteers from the bottom of my heart. I hope you had fun. I know we worked you hard, and I hope you and others will come back again next year.
Can I tell a story on you?
I don't know. What's the story?
When she told you, when I asked her, do you think we could do this? She said, Candace, I don't think so. No. The day before we get started, she looked at me and she says, I want you to know, I am dreading this. I said, dreading? She says, yes. I says, we'll pray our way through this. It's going to be okay, Barbara. I'm the cheerleader. Woo, Barbara, you can do this. When it was all over, she said, Candace, I will deny this if you ever ask me to say it. I said, what? She said, this was really
Fun.
She said, this was really fun. Could it be that ministry could be fun?
Apparently.
Apparently so. How cool is that? How cool is that? I think that, we had no idea how many people the Lord was going to bring us in contact with last weekend. To think that it was a couple thousand is still just a little amazing to me. That there are magazines and Steps to Christ and books in people's homes today. And I've been praying for these people all week, that they will pick them up, that the seeds that the Lord planted will grow in their lives. We did get one phone call that came through to the church. A lady called and she said, hello, are you that church? Are you that church that was at Canal Days? The ones handing out the smoothies? I said, yeah, we were that church. She says, that's what churches should be doing. Now, can you help me? If we sowed those kind of seeds where people are going to come to us and say, are you that church? And can you help me? We did the work of Jesus that day. I hope that all of you, when we do these things again, will realize that your hands work too. Right, Laura? Anybody can peel a peach. Thank you.
And if anybody's interested in getting their own copy of the peach smoothie recipe, I made a few extras and they're out in the lobby.
Our next attempt will be, we're hoping to have a booth at the Harvest Hoedown, which is about 2 months from now. And we're looking to give away a healthy alternative to caffeinated coffees. And what we want to do is we want to find a good recipe. So this is soliciting it, a good recipe for a pumpkin spice latte without the coffee and caffeine and stuff in it. So if you have a good idea, talk to Candace or talk to Barbara. Ministry comes in many shapes and sizes. Ministry happened on the streets of our church here last week. When was it, Frank? You did the pickup, trash pickup? Week ago Wednesday. You had how many volunteers? 11 volunteers picked up how many bags of trash? You can tell we practiced this, can't you? 12 bags of trash, our church family ministering to our community. Does that sound like ministry? It really is, folks. We're doing something to help our community. Caitlin, would you come up, please? I was so excited this week to read a little story that Caitlin had put on Facebook about the Lord opening up opportunity for her to minister this week. So please, Caitlin, tell us a little bit about what happened. You were at the hospital visiting, right? Step up here. Put me on this mic so she can have that mic, okay?
So my school, I started this job recently where I go to, it's called Assist. I go twice a week to nursing homes, and I get to interact with the older people there, and I get to talk with them and just get to know them, which is really, really good opportunity. And this one day, which was Thursday, this past week, I was put in with this older lady who just finished surgery. And there was this nurse in there. She was in there most of the whole time because the lady really needed help. And I wanted to talk to her, but I didn't really know how to because, she was just in there. And I was like, okay, I should say something. And she ended up saying something to me. She said, you're a Seventh-day Adventist, aren't you? I was like, yes, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. And she asked me, she said, can you tell me more about what you believe? And right then I was just like, oh my goodness, what do I say? I don't know what I believe, honestly, because last year I went to a non-Adventist school, high school, and it really questioned my faith because I didn't know really how to answer to people like that. So I just looked up at God. I was like, God, please help me to bring this lady to you. Please help me to encourage her. So it was an amazing feeling. Right then I felt like arms around me, and I was just able to say things that I didn't even know. I was saying verses. I was, quoting things from the Bible, and it was amazing. I can't even explain how I felt right then. And she was just smiling the whole time. And she said, I really see a shining light through you right now. Amen. And I was like, I didn't know what to say, but I said, can I please pray with you? So I prayed with her, and I helped her. She was just, she looked like she was in tears. And she looked at me right when I was about to leave, and she said, can I join your church? And so now she is hoping to start coming here. And I told her that we're a very welcoming church because I love it here. It's very welcoming and opening. And that's how we should be, because when new people come here, they need to be encouraged, and they, otherwise they might leave. So if she comes here, hopefully she will. But if she comes here, please welcome her because it was amazing. So
thank you. Good. What a wonderful coincidence that she would be in that room at that point in time, right? No. It's ministry. It's ministry. Well, I want us to think today about ministry beyond what we often think about ministry. Sometimes we think about ministry as something that sounds scary, going door to door and giving Bible studies or handing out books on the street. But ministry are all of these things. It's helping other people, helping our community, helping other people with health ideas. And it's something that is not just a nice thing Christians do. It's something that should flow from us naturally. I want to illustrate something here for you with a glass of water. I always have my glass of water here. Keeps me going during my sermon. I've often wondered if the drier the sermon, the more water I drink, but I don't know. Perhaps some of you drink water. You've had the experience that I've had where you get water, you're going into the other room, you get some water, and you pour it just a little too close to the edge. So you drink. just a little bit out so you won't spill it. And then carry it into the other room. Greg, would you help me just a moment, please? Stand right there at the end of the pew, would you please, if you would? And so you're really careful. You got your eyes on. People are starting to go, uh-oh. You got your eyes on the water. And you go down the hallway, and you don't even see that there's somebody there. And you, oh. You're welcome. I really didn't get him. It'll dry. Now, if I spilled this all over you, would you have cared? Nah, it's water. It'll dry. What if it had been grape juice? Yeah, that would be a little different. Wouldn't it be a little different? Yeah. So, what are you trying to say, Pastor? Well, I think about our spiritual lives. And here's a principle. Whatever you're full of, if you bump into someone, it will spill out. And so we start our days, and we think we're ready for the day, and we go out and interact with other people and bump into them, so to speak. And when we interact with other people, we rub up against them, we run into them. Whatever we are full of will spill over on them. If we are full of the love of Jesus can spill over on them. If we're full of anger can spill over on them. If we're full of fear and sadness, that'll spill over on them. Perhaps you've had the experience of dealing with someone and just say something totally innocuous to them, and they start crying. Have you ever had that happen to you? I have. It's like, oh, okay, what did I do? Well, they were full of fear. They were full of sadness. And whatever we are full of, when we bump into someone, it spills out, spills over. I think this is one of the biggest reasons I can think of why we should start every day with our devotional life. You know, if we fill our hearts and our lives up with the love, the grace, and the mercy of Jesus, then when we bump into other people, or oftentimes they bump into us, then what gets spilled over on them is Jesus. You know, if I'm full of me and I bump into you, you really don't want that to happen, right? And so we have to make sure we are filled with the love of Jesus, so the love of Jesus can flow through us. And this is exactly what is being talked about in this story that we read in the scripture reading, John chapter 7. I don't have time to do the whole story this morning, but I want you to see the principle of ministry in this passage. John chapter 7, starting with verse 37. It says, on the last day of the feast, the great day, Jesus stood up. The feast is called the Feast of Booths, or the Feast of Tabernacles, also called the Feast of Ingathering. It was late summer or early fall. It was after the grape harvest. It was when the farmers could kind of relax a little bit, and so they had a festival. It was kind of like, in some ways, like our Thanksgiving. They could have an easier time. They came together. They lived in booths, in little tabernacles, little shanties or lean-tos, to remind them of the wilderness wanderings when the Jews came out of Egypt at the time of the Exodus. And it was a special ceremony also during this time to commemorate the giving of the water from the rock. Remember, Moses smote the rock and the water came out. And it was a special ceremony during this, there was a special ceremony during this festival to commemorate that. Every day they would go down to the spring of Gihon, And that's the main spring that basically fed all of Jerusalem, gave Jerusalem water. They would go down into the valley to the spring of Gihon, get some water, and bring it up to the temple and pour it on the altar as a sacrifice. And the idea was that they were thanking God for his blessing of rain and water and asking God to continue to bless them. And so this was a special ceremony. Every day, except for the seventh day, they did everything 7 times. So 7 times they went down to the Gihon spring, got water, and brought it up. Now, you might remember this story about the giving of the water to the Israelites in the wilderness wanderings, but Paul says something very interesting about it. 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4. Paul tells us something significant about that rock from which they received the water. Paul's reflecting back on the wilderness, on that experience in the wilderness, and upon the Exodus, on the cloud, and on the going through the Red Sea. In verse 4 he says, "And all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Jesus." That rock from which they got water in the wilderness was a symbol of Jesus. He quenched their physical thirst for all those years as they wandered around the desert. The rock was Jesus. And so, during the ceremony, to commemorate the water coming from the rock, back to John chapter 7, during this ceremony, John 7:37, on the last day of the feast, the great day, Jesus stood up and cried, "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink." This is the fulfillment of the water coming from the rock. Jesus was the fulfillment. Only this time, you understand, he's not talking about physical water. This time he's talking about spiritual water. He's talking about taking care of our spiritual needs. He says, verse 37, "If anyone thirsts, let him come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water." So Jesus invites the people. He says, "Come, drink of me." Other places he says, "I am the light of the world. I am the bread of life." He doesn't really say, "I am the water of the world" here, but that's what he's saying. He's saying, "I am the water for every person who is thirsty, spiritually thirsty. Come to me, and I will take care of your thirst." Now, something interesting happens for a person who does that. Jesus says, "Come and drink of me," but then look at verse 38. He says, "Whoever believes in me, as the scripture has said, out of his heart will flow rivers of living water." So it ceases to be about me drinking, but it begins to be something different. So Jesus says, "Drink of me. If you're thirsty, drink of me." But what happens when we drink of Jesus? It comes out. What he does to us, he wants to do through us. And so his water in our life becomes living water that we can share with other people. This is what I mean by ministry. Ministry is simply sharing the blessings that God has given us in our lives. Ministry means sharing with other people, caring for other people in a way that Jesus has already cared for us. So when we're thirsty, he gives us living water. And then what does that enable us to do? It enables us to share that living water. What he does to us, he wants to do through us. It's ministry. From the book, the 5th volume of the SDA Bible Commentary, I found this very interesting quote. It put it so well, I'm just going to read it to you. This is not from the Ellen White quotation section. This is just from the commentary section. It says, the one in living communion with Christ becomes himself a center of spiritual influence. There is in him a power of life, which, when quickened by faith, flows forth as a river, carrying life and refreshment to others. The true Christian who grasps a great truth that satisfies his own yearnings cannot long refrain from giving expression to it. You know, what you get excited about, you want to share with other people. It's a natural thing. It's interesting how what people like, they like to share with others. You know, the people around here like to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. They like the Ravens, and so you hear people who are Ravens fans, they like to talk about them. I don't know why in the world they'd want to talk about the Ravens when you've got a team in Green Bay called the Packers. You know, I don't know. But people like to talk about the things they're interested in, things that you love. When I first started dating my wife, I wrote home a letter to my mother. This is family legend and family lore. I wrote a letter home to my mother. This is the days before cell phones. This was the day before email and all those things. Yes, I'm actually that old, kids. I actually wrote letters to my mother. And my mother, after I started dating Candy, my mother said, I kind of thought you liked that girl. Why, Mom? She says, you wrote me a letter. It had 9 paragraphs, and 8 of them were about her. You see, what we love, what we like to talk about. It flows out. You spend a little while with someone over supper, across the table. You're going to find out what they like, because we like to talk about us. Like to talk about those things that we like. And when we love Jesus, we love to talk about him. We love to share him. We love to do the kind of things he would have done if he were on this earth, and that is ministry. That doesn't sound scary, does it? Barbara, it could actually be fun, right? Fun. Ministry could be fun. Last week we looked at a group of stories from the book of John, and we talked about how Jesus ministered to their needs. I want to quickly recap what happened to them after Jesus met their needs. Part 2 of last week's sermon. In the story of John chapter 2, Jesus went to a wedding and he turned water into wine. What happened to the wine after Jesus met the need of turning water into wine? What happened? They passed it out. People drank the wine. Yeah, but that's what happened. They shared it. John chapter 3, we saw the story of Nicodemus. After the meeting with Jesus, Jesus met his spiritual needs. What did he do? He became a Christian. He actually asked for the body of Jesus when he was dead on the cross. He actually became a Christian, became a leader in the church. John chapter 4, we have the woman of Samaria who Jesus says in verse number, John chapter 4, verse number 10, Jesus says to the woman, if you knew the gift and who it was asking you to give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Jesus offers this woman living water. She needed acceptance. She needed love. Jesus provided that. And what does she do? Verse number 28. So the woman left her water jar and went away to the town and said to the people, come and see a man who told me all that I ever did. Can this man be the Christ? They went out of the town and were coming to him. Verse number 39. Many Samaritans from that town believed in him because of the woman's testimony. He told me all that I ever did. So when the Samaritans came to him, they asked him to stay with them, and he stayed there 2 days. You know, Jesus should have not even walked through their country, let alone stay as a guest for 2 days. But what did the woman do when she was filled with the living water, with the love of Jesus? She had to go out and tell other people, not giving them a Bible on this 2,300 days. She had to go out and tell them what he had done for her. That's ministry. In the story of the feeding of the 5,000 in John chapter 5, which we looked at last week, what was the need? The need was food. What did Jesus do? He provided food. But what happened after he provided the food? In the book Desire of Ages, I preached on this a number of months ago. Some of you will remember this. In the book Desire of Ages, it says this happened after the feeding of the 5,000. It says, when the baskets of fragments were collected, the people thought of their friends at home. They wanted them to share in the bread that Christ had blessed. The contents of the baskets were distributed among the eager throng and were carried away into all the region round about. So those who were at the feast were to give to others the bread that came down from heaven to satisfy the hunger of their soul. They were to repeat what they had learned of the wonderful things of God. Nothing was to be lost. What did they do after they received of the bread from Jesus? They wanted to take it home and share it with the people. And when they were sharing the bread with their friends at home, they were saying, and you know what he said? You see, this is ministry. When our hearts are filled with the love of Christ, it flows through us and it becomes ministry to people around us. It spills out all over everyone. When we are full of Jesus, it just is a natural thing. Why is it then? Watch out, preacher. Why is it then that many Christians who go to church every week, who study their Sabbath school lesson every week, who listen to the sermon every week and give their tithes and offerings, go home and do nothing for Jesus all week? If we are filled with the love of Christ, how can we not allow it to flow out of our hearts? You know, they say that a water that only gets and doesn't have an outlet, you know what happens to it? It begins to get stagnant, begins to get smelly. The mosquitoes lay eggs in it. Ooh, that doesn't sound nice, does it? Stagnant water. Perhaps in our churches we have too many dead Christians. Did I say that? Dead Christians? You know, the word dead Christians is a contradiction of terms. How can you be dead and be a Christian? It's impossible. Should be impossible. Maybe they're not really, well, we won't go there. Is it possible that an outlet of ministry is what's missing in many people's lives? You know, if in your spiritual experience you're feeling kind of dead, if you're feeling like your prayers aren't really focused anymore, if you find Bible study boring, perhaps it's because you're only taking in but not giving out. That which Jesus does to us, he wants to do through us, and it's ministry. You know, I'm convinced that every single one of you can be involved in ministry in some way. Somebody will say, well, I'm stuck at home all the time. How can I minister? You got a telephone? There are people on our prayer list that would love to have just a telephone call and prayer with you. That's ministry, you see. You might not think that's ministry, but that's ministry. Not everyone can, well, I guess most people could make a smoothie. I'm so glad, Laura, that you were there to peel the peaches. I am physically unable to peel peaches. And that's what I tell my wife all the time. That convinces her to peel them, you know. If I have to peel peaches, then I'll just go without. So we all have different areas of ministry. And every single one of us, I'm convinced, every single one of us, if we will pray for the Lord to open a place for ministry, open an opportunity for ministry. I've said this the last 2 weeks, and this is the third week in a row I've said it, so I'm hoping you get the idea. If we will pray and ask the Lord to open opportunities for us to minister, He will do it. Or if we don't pray, if we're open to it, you know. Caitlin didn't expect to have such a wonderful conversation with someone. But the Lord opened the door, and what I think is really cool is she walked right through it. And she depended upon Him to help her. Every single one of us can be involved in some type of ministry. And is it possible that if you're feeling spiritually stagnant, is it possible that the missing spark in your life could be ministry? And could it be the spark that would ignite your life and allow what Jesus has done to you to flow through you? I challenge you. As we close this morning, there's a song I wanted to sing with you. It's in the bulletin, and we're just going to sing it a cappella. I couldn't not choose this song on this day preaching on this text. It's a song that we maybe think of as a children's song. I don't know. But I think most of you will know it, so sing along with me. I've got a river of life flowing out of me, makes the lame to walk and the blind to see, opens prison doors, sets the captives free. I've got a river of life flowing out of me. Okay, you've done pretty well so far. Hold on just a second. You've done pretty well so far. I wanted to get you started. Now, usually we don't sing this song, our closing song, seated, right? And so when we get to we're going to sing the chorus. We're going to sing the verse again. When you get to the chorus, spring up. Yeah, there we go. Okay, verse again. I've got a river of life flowing out of me, makes the lame to walk and the blind to see, opens prison doors, sets the captives free. I've got a river of life flowing out of me. Spring up, oh well, within my soul. Spring up, oh well, and make me whole. Spring up, oh well, and give to me that life abundantly. Let's pray together, please. Dear Lord, we confess today we haven't always treasured the water that you want to give us because we thirst. We confess today we haven't always allowed it to flow through us to other people. We've been lazy. But Lord, I pray that if each person here is willing, that you will open an opportunity this week for them to be used by you in ministry. In Jesus' name I